Hello folks, by now we have some idea about how to create various services in AWS. We have seen how to create S3 bucket, we have seen EC2 related resources. Now whatever we create on AWS, all these are called AWS resources. Whether it's a file that you upload on S3, whether the bucket itself, virtual machines, queues, or any other entity that you create on AWS, that is in general called AWS resources. Now today in this module, we are going to talk about Identity and Access Management Web Service. The role of this particular web service is to secure your AWS resources. Now as you can imagine, by the nature of the cloud, where your basically data center itself is not on your premise, it is somewhere remote, the security becomes one of the most talked about requirement in your cloud security. Security becomes one of the most wanted feature on cloud. Now Identity and Access Management module, IAM in short, is one of the fundamental security service on AWS cloud. So before we move ahead and talk about IAM in particular, let's understand how organizations use AWS account. Now if this is a small organization, they will have one AWS account. If this is a big organization, they might have multiple AWS accounts and they might have one account per project or per client. Really depends on how organization chooses to use AWS accounts. Having said that, every AWS account would be used by multiple users. In whatever organization you go, normally there would never be something like that you have got one user per account. There will always be multiple users collaborating on the same AWS account. So in that case, it becomes very necessary that people who are using AWS account, all of them should have their own credentials. Because multiple AWS users would have different responsibilities, they might be using different services, and so which service should be used by which user and which user should not use what service, that should be properly maintained. So all this control mechanism about which user should use which service or even which service use which other service within AWS, these things are primarily taken care of by using IAM web service. So to begin our journey in IAM, let's log into aws.amazon.com or web console. Now here under security, identity and compliance, you will find the first service as IAM. Now few things about my current account. When you create an AWS account for the first time, like you have already done, and log into it, you basically log in as a root account. Now root account is a special user account which has all the permission to use all the services available in that particular account. So here you see in my console, this Assis user is basically a root user. Now this user can do whatever it wants in this particular account, which means it can use any service, it can delete anything, it can modify any service. There would never be any questions asked for this particular server. Now if you've got multiple users in your account, you need to create one user account within this account. So you need to properly give a credential, that is the username and password for each user, and let them access this AWS account by using their own credentials. Now another thing about IAM is that it's basically a global service. This service is not restricted to any particular region like other services as EC2 or S3 etc. So that is why you will see that here at the region, you will see that it is written global and you cannot select any region in IAM module. Having said that, if you want a particular user to be restricted to a particular region, you can do it by customizing your policies. We will see those things later. So let's explore this IAM dashboard. Now some of the pillars of IAM are user, then we have got groups, then we have got roles, and then we have got policy. Now policy is at the heart of users, groups and roles. All of these users, groups and roles, they used policy in their core. Now what is a policy? Policy is nothing but a set of permission. So policy is something using which you deny a particular access or you provide a particular access. So other than users, groups, roles and policies, we have got something called identity providers as well. Now think about something like this, that you have got a consultant who is basically an external consultant. He doesn't belong to our company or organization, but since he is a cloud consultant, so he need to access our AWS resources. So we want to give him temporary access to our AWS account or some AWS resources. Now this outsider consultant, he may have his own AWS account or he simply may not have. So IAM provides basically you a mechanism to use that external identity and allow it to access our own AWS resources, maybe temporarily. So who are the identity providers? There are many identity providers. For example, you have got Google, you have got Facebook, you have got Microsoft Azure's Active Directory things. Other than these identity providers, we also have something called account setting here. Now in that account setting, basically you can enforce, say, the password management, temporary tokens, what would be the strength of the password, how do you want to regulate the password of users, and various other things related to account. Then remember, when we talked about S3, we talked about security through encryption. So within the IAM modules, we also manage our encryption keys. So indirectly, key management service, which takes care of the encryption keys, that is also the part of IAM module itself. These encryption keys would be used whenever you go to encrypt a particular data or snapshots, volumes, or things like your S3 bucket. So these are the various components of IAM modules. So that's all in this video. In the next video, we are going to talk about IAM users. We'll create the users and we'll discuss about their use cases. So see you soon in the next video. Thank you for watching.